afternoon, South Africa. It's a brand new week. It's a Monday. Welcome to Afternoon Express. We're live right here on SABC3. I'm Bonang Mateba.
It's a motivational Monday, and I'm Bonnie Budi, and we're talking serious things in the loft today.
Oh, absolutely.
And I mean, the one subject that's been on every South African's lips lately is increasing interest rates. South Africa headed for junk status, and so on and so forth. A pending recession. We're all worried.
Absolutely. And of course, the Rand. And today we decided to dedicate the show to money. I know all of us are trying to survive and come back from the festive season. It's February. We're going to help you out, help you understand, what exactly is happening with the South African economy. We've got experts in the loft today to just wrap our minds around, the interest rate, economy, the Rand, all that and more. So stick around.
And how to afford a McDonald's meal in America if you're South African. We'll also be taking a detailed look at budgeting your salary. What and where should you be saving your money in 2016? So it promises to be a riveting show.
Absolutely. And because we are live, we do love hearing from you. Get, chatting to us on Instagram and on Twitter and on Facebook at Afternoon Chat on Twitter, and use our official hashtag Afternoon Express. But of course, it's not just the queen bees in the loft. Jay Dizzle, how are you?
She's looking like money.
Jeannie Maboneng.
No. Jeannie Maboneng is in the house, but you girls are actually depressing me with all this talk of money, which means we're going to have to stop eating out as much and start eating at home. So we've got my dearest friend, Tal Smith here. He's going to be teaching us how to do some cooking so that we don't eat out as much. Tal, what are we making?
We're going to be making a wild mushroom risotto.
Absolutely delicious. And also, it's really good for you to make it because it's a lot of stirring.
Well, yeah, people think so, but I'm going to teach you a trick or two today.
Oh, really? Okay, good. I'm looking forward to it. Tal actually did say earlier, actually concentrate in this one because you are going to want to cook this at home for your guests whenever I have a dinner party. Remember, you guys can be cooking at home with us as well today. All you need to do is visit our website, afternoonexpress.co.za. There we have the shopping list as well as today's delicious recipe. Right now, though, Bonang is on the couch with our very first guest.
Thank you very much, Jeannie. Now, our first guest has 10 years of financial services industry experience and has achieved top ratings in the Financial Mail annual analyst rankings. He's won the South Africa's Equity Analyst of the Year in 2011 and is currently co-manager of equity portfolios at Mergence Investment Managers. He's involved in a number of community development activities, such as serving as an external examiner for local universities as well. We couldn't have a better person to join us today to chat about, the current economic situation, how this will affect South Africans and also us as individuals in the coming year. So please welcome in the loft, Mr. Peter Takaendesa. Lovely to meet you, sir. We're speaking about something very, very serious today. Before we get into the conversation, what exactly does a portfolio manager do?
And I like the fact that, of course, this is a very serious subject because for this year, it's particularly going to be very important that we think about how we manage our finances because the economy is not looking the way it is. But let me get back to your question. What does a portfolio manager do? I work with a number of very bright guys who are way smarter than me, 10 times smarter than me, professionals, accountants, engineers. So what we're trying to do every day is to try to protect and grow the money that our clients have trusted us with. So what we do is we spend a lot of time talking to company executives, CEOs, divisional management, trying to find what is that investment that we can get for a client that's going to maximize the return at the same time minimizing the risk. Because we don't want to lose the client's money that we have been trusted with. So that's really the key issue. We can get into details as many things, but the key issue is we strive to protect and grow the money that we have been trusted with by clients.
Fantastic. Now, can you then sketch us just a brief, a general picture of the current climate of the South African economy right now?
That's why I said earlier, that's why I started by saying, you correctly said this is a very important subject because in fact, South Africa is likely to be way slower than what it was last year. I'm sure most of us are going to say, last year felt like it was the most difficult year ever, but it's going to be even more slower this year.
What do you mean?
We are lucky that
in terms of?
In terms of the growth of the economy, it's going to be slower. We're going to lose more jobs, unfortunately. We're going to go through a difficult time with interest rates that have gone up. So net, our economy will be growing way slower this year, less than 1%. Oh, wow. We are estimated to have grown by between 1.3 to 1.4% in 2015. So you can see that number, and there are some who are actually predicting that that number could be 0.5, less than half a percent growth from 1.3, 1.4 last year. But I'm just trying to give you a scale as where we were last year and where we are this year.
Okay.
So it's clearly a time of let me say, tightening belts. At the same time, we still need the girls to support us by spending a little bit. The economy needs people to spend. So the big maybe...
We can't do that, Peter. I mean, the rand is on everybody's lips right now. Let's talk about that. And why has it devalued so much?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. Many people are thinking about that and say, what's happening to South Africa? Maybe let me start by, let's get a bit of comfort here that it's not only South Africa. Some of our BRICS partners, particularly Brazil, Russia, have gone through almost the same path. They're probably actually worse than we are. But then, just to come back to the rand and we have to split the factors that have driven the rand into two. Part is domestic factors, our own so-called own goals, as they have been described in the media by some business leaders. We have to avoid those own goals. Those are some of the things that have driven the rand. But then on the other hand, we've got foreign factors that are to some extent beyond our control. If you look at those two countries that I mentioned earlier, which is Brazil, which is Russia, their currencies have almost, if you look over, the problem with looking at the rand, if you look on a month-to-month, day-to-day basis, it's very difficult. It's very volatile. So you try to look at a longer period, let's say a year, 2 years, or 3 years. If you look over that time frame, we are about the same as what has happened to Brazil and Russia. So those are the external forces. That's the big thing. It's emerging markets being punished to some extent because what do? What we sell to the world, we sell commodities largely, unfortunately, primary raw materials. And our biggest partner who is the biggest consumer of those commodities is China, which is slowing down. So it's actually a whole linkage. And as a result, I think the best way to put it is that a currency is the best indicator of how the world looks at us. So it's partly a function of this big trend of emerging markets, then partly some domestic factors that we're going through.
And you touched on how the world looks at us then. I mean, we've been talking about junk status quite a few times here on Afternoon Express, but for our viewers who have missed what that term means, can you just take us through that?
It is a big word. I'm not sure, not anyone in the world wants to be described as junk, but what it effectively means in the world of finance, let me put it that way, but I'll make it's a very simple thing. It means that you are moving from what is called investment grade, which is sort of the prime status, and you are moving into the other end. Take it like this is an examination, put it that way. Then there are 3 or 4 examiners in the room. Then they are marking you. And above 50, let's say above 50, that is investment grade. That's the desired or the required. Then below 50, that's the so-called junk. So once we go into junk, it means we are now into what is called speculative territory. So what is that advising is to the investor who wants to invest in our South African government bonds to say, if you are investment grade, that is the good side of things. That is the good side. You have a low chance of losing your money if you invest in that. But once it's in junk, we can't guarantee you that you get your money back.
Got you.
That is the difference.
I'm going to ask you a little bit more about, junk status, about your pardon, in terms of how you rate countries where South Africa is. But ultimately, what you predict for the rand and the South African economy in 2016. Some of us are going to be traveling in the next couple of weeks. We want to know the dollar, the pound. Where are we in terms of all of that? But Peter, I need to go to a commercial break. So, hold that thought for me. If you do have any questions for Peter, you know exactly where to find us at Afternoon Chat. Use our official hashtag, Afternoon Express. After the break, Jeannie makes us a mushroom risotto. And we're back on the couch with Peter to help us wrap our heads around interest rates and tax hikes and how South Africa can hope to turn around the current economic situation.
You have lived, laughed, loved, achieved, received, and been rewarded. What's next? Join Diners Club now. This February, you stand a chance of winning an unforgettable Diners Club experience at the prestigious Saxon Hotel, Villas and Spa in Johannesburg with Afternoon Express. Prize includes accommodation and breakfast at the Saxon. Lunch prepared by world-renowned chef Luke Dale Roberts in the company of me, Jeannie D, as well as a spa treatment and a whiskey and food pairing at the exclusive 1805. Visit afternoonexpress.co.za/giveaways to enter. T's and C's apply and are also available on our website.
Welcome back to Afternoon Express. So we're in the kitchen today making delicious mushroom risotto with the fantastic Tal Smith, who is actually literally the most talented woman that I know in the kitchen. So I've got two of my favorite things, a dear friend and garlic, all together. This is amazing. Okay, so what have you mixed together so far?
This is butter, which is melted, and we've just fried the onions and the garlic. So once the onions are soft and translucent, you add the garlic and just keep mixing until it all sort of caramelizes. You can see the butter's also getting and smelling a bit burnt, you know, that nice nutty burnt flavor. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add our button mushrooms.
Great, will help with that.
Yeah, you can do that.
There you go.
Just put it all in, and you are going to cook it until it's soft and brown. We've also, over here, if you have a look, we've got our mushroom stock, which is basically just dried porcini mushrooms with vegetable stock, soaked for about an hour or so, at least, so that the stock gets all the mushroom flavors. And then you just strain off the mushrooms, and you're left with this delicious stock.
Amazing.
So we're just going to cook this for a bit until all the oil coats, all the butter coats the mushrooms.
Wow. Yummy. Now, Tala's got a restaurant in Cape Town on St. John's Road, and she's got this amazing cookbook as well called Sababa. And basically, we are great friends, and what used to happen is I would take my dishes to her early in the morning of a day that I knew I was about to have a dinner party and go and fetch them at 5 o'clock with the most glorious dishes done in these bowls and stuff that I left behind. And I would have these dinner parties and people would be like, oh, this is literally the best food I've ever tasted in my life. And I would sit there and try and pull it off as my own. But anyone that knows me would know that
it is quite homemade. All right, and now we're going to add the soaked mushrooms. If they are big porcini mushrooms, then you can just chop them up a bit.
Amazing.
Okay.
That smells really good as well.
Yeah,
it's a nice, strong, garlicky smell.
Okay, and then we're going to add the risotto, which you can stir through.
Can it be thrown in like this? It's not like a rice that you've got to boil first.
No, so even with rice, I suggest that you fry the rice before you add the water. And the reason why is that it gives a much nicer flavor because the proteins and the starch from the rice, they cook, they brown and they caramelize, and it gives a much nuttier, more delicious flavor. Yeah, and it also helps the rice from sticking together, so it becomes less stodgy.
Oh, that's a great little tip. Thank you.
Okay, so now with risotto, often people think that they've got to be in front of the dish, stirring and cooking for hours.
That's what my one experience with risotto has been. That's maybe why I haven't visited it again.
Yeah, so it really is an easy one, and it's great for dinner parties because you can even half prepare it and then finish it off later. And what I do is I add 3/4 of the stock all at once.
Okay. This really is such a nice, rich, exactly what you said, a home-cooked
Very rich,
meal.
yeah. But it's also great in summer because what we're going to do today is we're going to add a bit of fresh lemon and parsley just to give it a lighter, fresher flavour for the summertime. But it's also really delicious and Moorish and warm winter meal as well. So there we go. I've added the 3/4 of the stock. And then I'm going to turn the heat down on low, put the lid on, and let it simmer for about 10-15 minutes. Just coming every now and then to give it a quick stir just to check that it's not sticking to the bottom.
So you can just leave it?
You can leave it, especially when you use these non-stick pans. Nothing's going to happen to it. As long as it's on a low heat, that's fine. And then later, we'll just check that the rice hasn't cooked all the way through and add more stock if need be.
Oh, delicious. And remember, we have all of the recipes on afternoonexpress.co.za. This one in particular, and it's just absolutely yummy. This is going to be great. We've got the finished one over here.
Yes. So basically, once that's cooked down and all the water's been absorbed, just taste the rice. You don't want it to be totally mushy. You still want it to have a bit, you want to taste the grain a little bit. So keep adding the water as much as you need. And then lastly, all you do is add
cheese.
Cheddar.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like how you're using two different
Parmesan.
flavour combinations with the cheese.
Yeah, it really is
That's
delicious.
great.
Nice and salty as well. And then we just mix it through.
Oh, this is such a good recipe. I will make this.
Until it all
Believe
comes
it or not.
together.
I'll just phone you again.
And that's really it.
That smells amazing. Ah, delicious. Don't forget to visit afternoonexpress.co.za for this recipe. It is definitely a winner. Right now, though, Bonang is on the couch with our next guest.
Thank you so much, Ginny. I'm back on the couch with Portfolio Manager Peter Takaendesa. Today's topic is the current state of the South African economy and how it affects us as individuals. Now, Peter, earlier on we were chatting about junk status, and I wanted to know how we rate different countries in the world.
It's quite a number of things that they consider. There is government finances, where are those standing? It's quite a number of things, let me say, that are quantitative, that can be measured. Then, so the political stability of a country. So it's actually, you put together a number of things to get to that rating, and it's applied across many different countries on the same sort of rating. Yeah.
So what are the implications then when we, end up in junk, demoted to junk status?
I hope we'll never get to that.
I hope so too.
I hope we'll never get to
good.
that. It's something that we cannot afford to do. The problem is that we are sitting on the borderline. One slight push, we are down to junk status, as it is called. The biggest challenge with that is like if I were to give you an analogy, like the master key to all the things in the financial world. Because what it does is it changes the cost of borrowing for the government.
All right.
So when that is changed, it has a knock-on impact on almost every asset in the economy. Because for those who are, who play in the financial markets, they would know that that is the discount rate that is used to value all the other assets. So whenever you see a downgrade of a country, it has a knock-on impact. Almost every asset is affected.
Got you.
That's sort of the biggest problem and the implication of that.
So let's talk about our country and our economy and our rand. What are the projections for 2016? I think every single person watching Afternoon Express right now, including myself, wants to know where you think we're headed.
Let me start by saying that it's very, very difficult to call the rand on a short-term basis. It's a very volatile currency. But however, we can only use a number of data points that we have to try to estimate where it might be going. It's always better if you look at it over a long period of time, because you can look at certain changes in the economy, structural changes, which will drive that exchange rate over time. But as I said, in the very short term, it's heavily driven by sentiment. As I said earlier, that's like the view mirror of what the foreign, particularly the foreign communities rank or rate South Africa. That is exactly the thing. But in the short term, though, what we can see is the rand has already found some support.
Good.
To strengthen a bit, coming back towards the 16 level. It was much higher than that before. But we started sort of slipping back towards above that 16. If you look at consensus, which is, again, 10, 15, 20 economists in the country, they're expecting that we end this year around 1670, 1660. So which means weaker than where we are now.
Against the US dollar?
Against the US dollar. That's a very good point you're putting across, because most of the time when we talk of the rand, we're talking of the rand to the dollar, not the rand to many other currencies out there.
Or the euros.
Or even the Brazilian real. You can go to Brazil for holiday if you wanted to, because the currencies are moving each other.
Well, the
it's
rand
not much
isn't
more
looking
expensive.
good, Peter. So we can't even go to Brazil. So let's move from exchange rates to interest rates. And, the Reserve Bank recently announced a hike in interest rate. What exactly does that mean for just poor old me sitting at home? What does it mean?
That ties in very well. Now, this is a very interesting concept now for you to understand again, that junk status, because that junk status, it affects the cost of borrowing for the government. Then the interest rate that we have that is moved by the central bank is for you and me, the private individuals, mostly end companies. So that's how it works. That's how the two are connected together. But then what does it mean? It just means mostly the cost of borrowing for most of us. If you have a bond on a house...
that's what I was going to ask.
If you have a bond on a house, you got a financed car, all of those things, they are going to be ticking up. That's a 0.5 percentage point, but it has a lot of impact. It's actually a material in terms of the absolute amount that you have to pay in addition every month.
Okay.
You have to pay more every month. I'm sure the post boxes are full. If there's anyone who is not using email, the post boxes are full with notices to tell you that the premium or whatever
Okay.
you're paying monthly is going to go up by this amount every time.
right.
So that's what it does on a direct person-to-person level or person-to-corporate level. But then it has other second-round effects
On
which are
tax
quite
and
hidden.
VAT and
It has
all of
many
that?
other implications on the economy overall. Because what it does is it's taking away cash from your bank account, so you're going to have less money to spend on other things.
That's not a
You're
good
going
thing.
to have to pay more towards your bond, towards your car.
Okay, so let's then bring it back to then what are the implications of tax and VAT, being increased?
That's again almost the same thing as interest rates, because remember what always happens in an economy is it's either the government or the monetary authorities, are they putting cash into the economy, into the consumer, into who else who is not part of the authorities? Or are they taking cash from that? So when you hike interest rates, more cash is being taken out of the consumer. When you increase taxes, more cash is being taken out of the consumer. So that is the impact of slowing down the consumer overall. And most of the times, it sort of slows down the economy.
Okay, so basically it's a disaster.
We can, we can,
Just a
we
little
can
bit.
put
It's
it
like
that
a
way.
domino effect.
Yeah, we go now. Look, there is hope at the end of the tunnel
Okay.
because we go through these cycles and we always come
Okay.
out of them even stronger at times.
Absolutely.
Because it's like if you leave a child going astray and over, where's the hope? So sometimes you need to bring in that corrective action such that it can be a sustained path of growth in the economy.
All right, so South Africans everything is going to be okay. Is that what you're saying, Peter?
We
Not
need,
now, but
we
out.
need to, I think, tighten our belts to some extent.
Okay.
We need to pull up our socks. There is a lot of work that needs to be done for things to come out all right at the end of it.
All right.
It's not going to be an automatic adjustment back to normality.
Okay, all right. I don't know if I feel better or worse, but thank you very much, Peter. Don't go anywhere. Stay around where you are because after the break, we're joined by financial planning expert Mai-Li Cannone. She'll be sharing some advice on how to budget your income, manage your debts, and also where you should be investing your money this year, all right? So we'll be right back. Remember, if you have any questions for our experts today, then head on over to our Facebook page or tweet us at Afternoon Chat using the official hashtag Afternoon Express. We might just be reading your questions live straight after this.
Salati Plantation Select adds subtle sweetness to toffees, caramel, bran muffins, or sprinkled into a spicy curry. Salati, always good, always sweet.
Welcome back to Afternoon Express live on SABC3. Now we've learnt a thing or two about the economy and interest rates, etc. But how can we plan our year around all of this? Joining us is a certified financial planning professional at Old Mutual Wealth. She has gained extensive knowledge within the financial planning industry with more than 9 years of working with corporate and independent financial planners. She's here to advise us on how to plan for our individual financial needs in 2016. Welcome, Mai-Li Cannone. Lovely to have you with us.
Thank you.
So, what is the role of a financial advisor?
Well, the role of a financial advisor is basically just to help a client get a roadmap to reach his future dreams and aspirations. So we've been hearing a lot of negativity in the previous conversation, but it's not really negative. It's for us to understand our environment, to understand what we operate in.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, each client is unique, and each client has their unique situation that we try and design a plan around.
Right. Most people just think if they make enough money or more than enough money, they'll be fine. But financial planning is actually very important. And
Yes.
why?
Well, I guess it also has something to do with clients being or having access to a wide to a lot of information these days. So they can research online and they can compare products and they can compare benefits. But there's a massive difference between understanding the product and then designing a strategy for your life. So financial planning is important to make sure that you achieve your future dreams and goals.
Right. Now, what does a healthy personal financial portfolio look like? What does that entail?
Again, it's different for individuals, but I would break it up into two different categories mostly. So the first one is make sure that you have products and investments in place to protect your current life as it is. And secondly, ensure that you are making provision for the growth of your future wealth.
Right.
So under the first category, we would look at things like emergency funding. we would look at income protection, disability cover, and rare disease. And the second category of providing for your future wealth would be retirement planning, for instance.
Right.
And then lastly, especially if you have dependents, it's very important to have a will in place, an active and an updated will, as well as death cover.
What about things like life insurance, a disability fund, an education fund for your kids, a savings plan? I mean, if I'm sitting with a financial advisor and they're telling me I need all these things, how do I pace myself? How do I know these are the ones I must have that are essential, and which ones can I just add on as time goes on?
Yes. So I would suggest that you prioritize short-term, medium-term, and then longer-term goals. So firstly, look after, like I said, the expenses or the products that protect your current life. So an emergency fund is essential. If you have an expense that pops up that you need to pay for, you need to have provided for that. So in that case, for instance, a retirement fund wouldn't help because you can't access the money.
Right.
So that's why your first priority would be an emergency fund, as well as income protection, because that is, for most clients, that is their most valuable asset, is their income, if they haven't built up any assets yet.
Right.
And then as you go along, you would, all of these products are important, but they apply to different clients in different situations.
Now, can you attain this basic coverage even if you earn a smaller salary?
Yes, you definitely can. It again comes down to seeing a financial advisor and discussing your own situation and your own goals and your own, expenses that you have. Your own earning ability, exactly. So there's a personal financial plan will be developed for you, taking into account your lifestyle and your circumstances.
And with markets being so volatile, it's quite difficult to save, and it's people feel anxious, and that makes it even tougher to save. How do we approach this?
Yes.
Any savings tips that we should be taking into account?
Well, firstly, as much as we endeavour to understand the economics, and we really try, we do. We had Peter here explaining it to us. At the end of the day, we have no control over that. So we have to control what we can by ourselves. As far as savings tips goes, I think most South Africans know by now how to save on electricity and how to reduce they should, I think, and how to reduce fuel consumption. But one thing that I found for myself personally that works extremely well is to do online grocery shopping.
Is that better?
It is. It definitely is. So for a couple of reasons. It's definitely more efficient. It's time efficient.
Yes.
But for the savings aspect, what happens is you can filter prices from low to high.
Easier.
Yes, and so you can compare the same type of product according to price.
Wow.
And you know exactly what you're going to spend when you reach the checkout point. So it's not like you're getting a surprise at the till, which is what happens to us most of the time these days.
Because you go in store, you end up picking up stuff that you actually didn't intend to pick up.
Yes. It also limits impulse buying.
Wow.
Correct.
So what guidelines do you have for people when setting up a personal budget? When budgeting their monthly salary?
So it's similar to what I mentioned for a financial portfolio. I think it's important to maintain the expenses that protect your current lifestyle. So maintain saving for an emergency fund. A good guideline there is at least 6 months worth of expenses. You should maintain your income protection policy, those types of expenses that protect your lifestyle in its current format. And then the second category is maintain expenses that help you build your life going forward and grow your assets going forward. So your retirement funding and also savings for longer-term goals or medium-term goals, because it's not always just retirement. Maybe you have plans to travel every 5 years or, So those 2 categories are very important, but then I feel very strongly about also enjoying your life. Life is about enjoyment.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be so hard.
No, it doesn't. So once you've covered those 2 categories, I think feel free to spend your money on what makes your life, what makes you happy and what gives you fulfillment.
Right.
Don't feel worried or stressed about spending money once you have covered those 2 aspects.
Is it a good time to invest? I mean, things like buying property, or should we be a bit more conservative at this time and for time to come?
The answer is it's always a good time to invest. You should never not be invested. The guideline there would be you would just change your mix of assets depending on your time horizon that you have to be invested. So if you're in a shorter term investment, if it's your emergency fund, you will not necessarily expose it to equities.
Right.
But if it's a longer term need, like your retirement plan, then you will expose it to assets that have a higher potential of growing in future, like equities, like property, a good diversified mix.
Right.
And then the most important part is for clients who are already invested into equity markets and they do have a longer term time horizon goal, don't disinvest now. Stick to your strategy, remain invested.
Okay.
Just as you wouldn't sell your house when it's reached, when its value has declined or it's reached a low point in value, you also wouldn't sell out of assets that are going to give you future growth.
Okay, awesome. That's great advice. But you're not going anywhere. We're going to be chatting to you in a bit some more. And if you'd like some further financial advice and inspiration, then now's your lucky chance. Today we're giving away a signed copy of a book called How Much Is Enough by Andrew Bradley, good question, which is all about balancing your time, money and happiness. Simply SMS the keyword books, your name and city to 3378. SMSs cost R1.50, T's and C's apply, and are available on our website, afternoonexpress.co.za. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Five Roses blends only the top 2 leaves of the finest Ceylon teas. Because nobody makes better tea than you and Five Roses.
Welcome back to Afternoon Express. We're live. We're talking money matters. We hope it didn't get too depressing. But at least there's some things you can put in place and some guidelines to help you make it through the year.
Absolutely.
We're still with Peter and Mai-Li. So, Mai-Li, just about debt. South Africans struggle with debt. How can people get out of debt faster? Somebody who's out there watching right now and they feel like they're drowning under debt.
I think the very first step is to be completely honest with yourself. Take stock of your assets, your liabilities, your income and your expenses. It's a case of if you stick your head in the sand, it's not going to go away. And that is what we find most people actually do. They ignore it and then they pretend it's not there, but it is. So once you've been honest with yourself and you know exactly where you are right now, you can actually determine a way forward. So I would say definitely if you're struggling to pay your debt, you have to talk to your creditors and engage with them as soon as possible. Also, obviously, the use of a financial advisor or the assistance of a financial advisor can help you determine exactly where in your budget you can maybe cut out certain expenses, because satellite TV is not a necessity as much as some people think it is. It's not. So, yes, that would be my advice.
All right. And take it from what Mai-Li was saying. What, Peter, what general advice would you give to South Africans during these, very tough economic times?
I think the first advice is just don't panic. Don't panic. Just keep doing what you have to do. You have to keep investing because you have a future. As we are saying, the world is not ending tomorrow. We're still going to be alive. We still need to eat. So you need to keep investing. You need to keep skilling yourself, upskilling yourself, so that the opportunity, the market is changing, the world of work is changing. You have to keep reinvesting in yourself through all those up and downs. And as she touched on earlier, there are some things that you might think are necessities, but you might have to. Life is all about making choices, prioritizing certain things and letting other things go. In the short term, hopefully in the long term, you get them back.
Okay. Right. And, talking about things, before we throw it back to you, Mai-Li, what is asset class and why is it important for South Africans to know what it is?
Asset class, it just refers to, I think the market was struggling about all this. There are all these arrows coming from everywhere. So what do? You group these assets or so-called assets. Asset is anything of value that you would put value on. So you group them into certain, because they have different risks. They have different returns. It's the same way you have your basket of fruits on the table. You're going to have apples, you're going to have oranges and lemons. You have to make sure you're picking the right one, because if you pick a lemon instead of an orange, I'm sure you know what will happen after that. But so you got in that asset class, you got cash, you got so-called bonds, you got equities, which is simply a certificate that says you own a share of a certain company.
Okay.
That's what it is. So there are quite a number of them, but then they have different qualities of risk and return. So you have to choose one that suits your needs at a certain point in time.
Now, Mai-Li, it's very important for everybody to have a good credit rating, right? And it took me ages to understand that. But how do South Africans know when they're racking up too much credit?
I think it comes down to your personal budget again. As interest rates are increasing, the cost of debt becomes more expensive. So as soon as you feel that you aren't able to pay those, two categories that I spoke about earlier, the elements that protect your current lifestyle and the elements that savings for your future, then you are living above your means, and you probably have too much debt. So I think it's important to always bear in mind, even if the environment changes and the economic outlook starts looking better, don't always increase your lifestyle. Don't just accumulate, because at the end of the day, when times are tough, it becomes more difficult to maintain.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's about giving yourself margins.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, with that said, Peter, you touched on this a little bit earlier on, but do you think we can turn this around? The economy, the value of the rand, and, all of this, because you said South Africans mustn't panic, but there's a little bit of panic in every single one of us.
Yeah, that's right. There are a number of things we can do, but if obviously, of course, I run the risk of, winning a soccer match from the bench, with not being a participant in terms of implementing those things. But we have very good policies that have, people have sat down and they considered this, they thought about this, they looked at, best practice elsewhere in the world. We got the National Development Plan. It's got very good recommendations on what has to be done. But unfortunately, in the short term, we've been pushed into a corner. We have been boxed to the extent that maybe the best we can do for now is to reduce those on goals. Those on goals, we need to reduce on that at least. That will put us in a better situation. Sure. And as I touched on earlier, there are bigger problems that are hitting all emerging markets as we are grouped together. So we are all in the developing world. So we have a number of things that are going against us. And if you just think of it this way, America is going to grow at more than twice our growth rate.
Yeah.
So think of it that way, and you can see where our problems are coming from partly. Then secondly, we have certain domestic issues that we have to get rid of, and maybe we'll be in a better place. Sure. That's for the short term. Long term, we have credible proposals that have been put on the table. We just need to implement on those.
Okay.
Basically, stay calm and don't spend.
That's it. Just be calm, all right? Because everything is going to be okay. I'm loving this conversation with our financial experts today. If you do have anything to add or ask, use our official hashtag, Afternoon Express at Afternoon Chat on Twitter. Off to the kitchen with Jeannie D.
Thank you, ladies. Now, usually after a depressing conversation like that, I would head to the kitchen as well and eat my feelings. Luckily, there's now this very delicious risotto over here. It smells amazing, and this is serious comfort food.
Oh, absolutely.
We're going to need it today after all of this. Remember afternoonexpress.co.za for this delicious recipe. Otherwise, you're going to need to get your hands on Tal's cookbook, which is called Sababa as well. So I could eat it just like this.
You can totally eat it like that, but if you just want to add another element to it, we're going to make a fresh gremolata, which has got lemon zest, parsley, and some garlic. If you want, you can add some nuts, almonds, pine nuts, whatever you like.
Sure.
So for the gremolata, you can
zest... I just like that name, gremolata.
Exactly.
Okay, what are we going to do with
so you're going to zest the
all
lemon.
3 lemons.
2 lemons are fine.
Okay.
You can just zest them into here if you like, and I'm going to chop up this Italian parsley.
So when you say zest, I'm just going to...
Yeah, it's just the top area.
Yeah. Ow, not my knuckle. Okay.
I'll do it if you like.
Okay, if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. This is definitely ow. Okay, you're gonna zest the lemons.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it's easier to do it over a chopping board.
I'm one hot mess in the kitchen. At least my dress is pretty.
Okay, so we've got our parsley.
There you go, parsley. Yes, I'll just watch and learn.
Okay, you can put in the garlic.
Thank you.
And then.
Would you like me to stir it for you?
You can do that as well.
There you go. I got skills. We're juggling these lemons today, but you know what they say, when life gives you lemons.
Okay, there we go.
There you go.
That's the zest.
Okay. I don't know how to clean up this olive oil.
No, we don't need to do that. Okay, just mix that through.
Oh, wow, look at your zest. That was so much better than my attempt. Brilliant.
Okay, just mix it all. And then
this
just
looks
before,
so fresh.
yeah, and it smells lovely.
Yeah.
And just before you're going to serve it, just throw it over. I like to eat sharing style, so it's nice for everyone
Me
to just
too.
grab a spoon and eat out the pot.
Oh, I love that style of eating.
And then lastly, just a drizzle of olive oil.
Oh,
There we go.
that is
And that's that.
sensational. Where is
Delicious.
this from, this dish?
It's Italian.
Okay,
Yeah.
so gremolata is an Italian word.
Yeah, gremolata is Italian, risotto is Italian. And then if you want to spice it up, you know, you can make it Middle Eastern. We sometimes do that because what we do is Middle Eastern.
Exactly.
But yeah, this is a great base for any type of risotto. You can add all kinds of vegetables to it, butternut, roast vegetable. Sometimes I add coconut cream instead of stock. So you can really go wild. It's a great base for a sharing risotto meal.
And I mean, it didn't take longer than 20 minutes to make.
No, it's very quick. And like I said, you don't have to stand over the pot stirring. You can run out the room for a bit. Just every now and then check that it's not sticking to the bottom of the pot.
Okay, so this was slow cooked for 15 minutes and voila, absolutely amazing. Remember afternoonexpress.co.za for all of these delicious recipes and of course our shopping list. Right now though, we're going to take a quick ad break. We're going to be back in a while to eat this.
You have lived, laughed, loved, achieved, received, and been rewarded. What's next? Join Diners Club now. This February, you stand a chance of winning an unforgettable Diners Club experience at the prestigious Saxon Hotel, Villas and Spa in Johannesburg with Afternoon Express. Prize includes accommodation and breakfast at the Saxon. Lunch prepared by world-renowned chef Luke Dale Roberts in the company of me, Jeannie D, as well as a spa treatment and a whiskey and food pairing at the exclusive 1805. Visit afternoonexpress.co.za/giveaways to enter. T's and C's apply and are also available on our website.
Fresh Pack. Goodness comes naturally.
We're still live on Afternoon Express. You're watching SABC3, and today we're chatting money. And we do have a question from Nazarene Ibrahim. Says, hi at Afternoon Chat. Hey, my question for Peter is, how do small businesses thrive in this current economic downturn? Great question. Thank you very much.
Yeah, obviously you need to get someone to actually get to understand the company that she's referring to and the specifics of that particular company to give specific advice to that. I can only answer that question taken from a point of view as a portfolio manager. What are the things that we look at when we're looking at companies? So we look basically largely at three things. We look at profitability, we look at sustainability, we look at risk. So what are some of the things maybe that you can do? Again, answering from a very general perspective, I don't know their particular situation, is that you may have to look into your cost structure, the cost structure of the business. You may have to leverage things like technology that could reduce your cost base. You may have to look into your headcount. And maybe, you have to go to the table very strong that maybe those days of inflation plus wage adjustments are probably way behind us. Let's try to meet halfway and survive this, and we will have good times again. Then beyond that, if you have any shareholders that you are paying dividends, for example, private shareholders of that business, you may have to renegotiate and say, maybe let's not pay out most of the cash that we've earned this year. Let's keep some and go through this difficult time.
Yeah. We have another question from Keegan Overmeyer, and he says, what can we do to better our financial system in Africa? Do you think it's better to invest in international companies, seeing that the rand is weak?
One has to be very careful with that again, because you have to balance the risk of having to take your money offshore when the rand is weaker by 50% over the past 12 months or whatever's longer time, if I can put it that way. And however, we're also seeing that you're finding some very good quality international companies looking cheaper than some South African companies. So one can, the universe, provided you are seasoned, you understand the markets, the universe is quite wide, you can invest abroad. But again, keep in mind that the rand is really maybe towards the very weak end of the range of what it has traded on. And South Africa will bounce back at some stage. It's not going to remain like this forever.
Oh, yeah.
And Mai-Li, what about people who have no credit, and will interest rates affect them at all?
No, it shouldn't.
It shouldn't.
It shouldn't. No, I mean, apart from the environment which we live in, which obviously, I mean, it might affect their partners, it might affect everyone else, because we can't just assume that people in a partnership actually share the same expense.
Yeah.
So yes.
Is it safer to have no credit? Not necessarily.
Yes, no debt ever.
No, but I mean, we also need a healthy credit.
Record to get houses and bonds and
Yes,
cars and things.
That is true. It could be safer, but I mean, it's also not very viable for most people.
Got you.
I mean, there is healthy debt as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
a home loan
Like a
is
bond.
a healthy one, yes. I think you're going into unhealthy or dangerous territory when you, rack up store credit and credit cards and, personal loans. Those have very high interest rates. So if you keep on making purchases on those, you might run into trouble.
Is there anyone else here that feels like emotionally eating?
Yeah, I'm gonna comfort eat.
I'm
It's
so
time to comfort eat.
sad.
Make sure you join us again tomorrow for Afternoon Express, and tune in early because during the first 15 minutes of the show, we're getting a visit by those cute little furballs from Expresso Morning Show, Bob and Bella, and in the kitchen we're making cinnamon buns.
Alrighty.
Oh, sweet.
Well, a big thank you to, of course, our guests, to Peter and Mai-Li. Thank you very, very much. Hopefully to all of you that are watching at home that you learned something and how to prepare for 2016. Of course, the economy, like Peter said, everything is going to be okay. Thank you very much for watching Afternoon Express. We'll be back on SABC3 tomorrow at 4 p.m. From all of us, good evening and happy eating.
Ciao. Mwah. Who would like a risotto?
Me too.
Coming up tomorrow on Afternoon Express, Hunter Mitchell, the 8-year-old boy who started a fund to save a baby rhino, shares his story. We celebrate the brave men and women fighting wildfires across the Western Cape. And we're joined by a representative of the Domestic Animal Rescue Group.
Another feel-good production.
Hi, YouTubers. Thank you so much for watching. Your support means the world to us. Join the Afternoon Express family by subscribing to our channel right here. And we'll keep you up to date with all our recipes and, of course, our fabulous episodes. Also, feel free to leave a comment and share this video. We do love it when you express yourself.